We identified that last year we had a lot of outreach opportunities with not so much participation. We think that maybe there was some kind of exhaustion of asking for input and participating in many, many evenings for the public to devote to be part of this program. I think we're going to try something new. We're going to try to do this consolidated meetings where people can come and explain what are seeing as deficiencies, give us input, look at our list of projects, look at a map, and take that input at once for both transport.
Attendance in person and some that are joining us remotely. This is City of Pasco's listening session, open house, for our 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program planning and the Capital Improvement Plan, combining the two together. Thank you. Why are we here today? We want to provide information on the two important planning tools that I just mentioned, the Transportation Improvement Program, we call it TIP for short, and the Capital Improvement Plan, CIP. We are going to talk a little bit about those, and we're going to want to mostly hear from all of you as far as your input and your thoughts on some of that.
Sorry.
No.
I'm not very good.
So we'll start with the transportation one, the TIP. Per RCW 3577-10, as shown there, we are required to prepare a comprehensive transportation plan for a 6-year period, and we do this annually, as with other agencies in we consistent with the plans are consistent, the TIP is consistent with our comprehensive plans, so our master plan and our downtown plan, and we include the bicycle and pedestrian facilities as well, not just traffic is looked at. And our deadline for this is getting approval by July 1st, so we're starting early to make sure we get good feedback, and we'll talk about the schedule here a little bit later too. And we have to file with the Secretary of Transportation within 30 days of adoption of the council action. And the capital improvement plan includes transportation projects, but this is a strategic blueprint that outlines planned capital expenditures over a multi-year period. Also, we look at it in 6-year periods. It encompasses major infrastructure projects, but includes utilities and a combination of all our public works and parks and rec projects. And long-term planning tool that helps the City of Pasco manage and prioritize their capital projects. The importance of these plans is we have, of course, strategic planning, fiscal responsibility, transparency and accountability and coordination. What the plans are not it's not a budget, so they are plans, and we strive for certain we strategically plan our 6-year periods, but sometimes the static portion of it is it doesn't have to fall in the same year, so we can be another we have our budget cycles a 2-year biennium, so we plan for something. For example, a static example I'll give you is a grant application. We apply for a safety project, and those are for a specific one given out every 2 years, and we apply for this certain project, and sometimes we don't get that fund, so the project ends up getting pushed a couple more years depending on the situation there. But it's not a detailed project design, it's just a plan with the TIP and the CIP identified the following. So the proposed, just the name and the brief scope of the project, so we cover your general type of work. So if it's a transportation project, does it include the crossing, sidewalk, and general intersection safety, and the schedule. So of course these are based on the 6 years that we've mentioned, and the phasing of these projects. We have the planning phase, design, and those are all broken down, as you'll see. Design, right away sometimes in some projects we have, and construction phase. Those are typically your 4 general, and we include all those phases in our planning as well. And then the funding sources that we identify, whether they're secured grants, whether they're specific funds set aside, or if they're unsecured funds, those are identified in this stage. And the TIP and CIP will focus on projects anticipated to be delivered by the city, and special attention on projects with federal and state funding. So the schedule, to kind of go over what's happening, of course, currently and just for this year for our approval process of these, we have this open house combined with TIP, CIP, which is the outreach portion. We will also have another open house on May 7th. I believe that one's at 11:30 at the Gisa Stadium. We will, in May, we have a council meeting tonight for the draft, and in May we'll also bring the TIP only portion to council for discussion based on some of the feedback we hear over the outreach, and the public hearing on the 19th as shown there for the TIP. And because TIP's adoption is July, or 1st of July, so that being prioritized first over the CIP as far as the schedule. That's why you see that there in that order. And CIP will follow after the adoption of the TIP in June. Then the focus will shift to the CIP. With September, the proposal being added in September, and the edits being done prior to final adoption in November. So for community input, we have the staff from both Public Works and Parks and Rec and City Manager's Office are here. So if this is kind of an open house situation, so we have we want your guys' input, we want questions, we will walk around, we have a couple maps. We have a map that's for kind of a blank map with just the opportunity to talk about projects that you may be interested in, or if you know of an intersection or something that you're noticed as if it's not already a project in our last year's TIP, which we have there for reference. The second map is our TIP, and we have some handouts that show the kind of little more details of the projects for last year's TIP, so for reference. But there's a QR code, as you'll see on that map. We encourage everybody to scan it, and that gives you an opportunity to provide online comments, and also we have sticky notes if you prefer to put in by hand. We have pens and sticky notes if you want to just map on the location that you're inquiring about, and we will gather all that information and appreciate everybody's input there. So as I mentioned earlier, the 5/7 date is for the second opportunity at the Gisa Stadium. That'll be at 11:30, which will be the next in-person opportunity. So thank you all for coming, and we will, I can go up there, staff will answer any of your questions, and kind of again, this is an open house, so any feedback. We will also have a few questions maybe coming through online, but yeah, this is an open house in discussion, so thank you very much.
We can ask questions. which one is lowering the levy? Okay.
Would you like to speak on the microphone so that everybody can hear? Would that be okay?
Sure. Just with lowering the levy, but I guess in general, all funding, is there any concerns about the federal cuts that are occurring and DOGE?
So no, we have, again, so we're using this as a planning tool, and as a planning tool, there's generally not funds 100% associated with it, and what it is listed is several years out. So direct impact of federal funding isn't a concern as of now, but it's something that one of those that would potentially apply, because those are federal lands currently where we would be looking for grants. To help support that lowering. In addition, in federal grants, we also have through the Recreation Conservation Office, Washington State, the ability to request trailway grants as well. So while we are monitoring those grant cycles haven't come up for us to apply yet, so we're not necessarily worried about the current situation, but maybe as those cycles come up, we will be.
I will add to that in more general aspects of, for example, public works projects. There are some visible cuts that are expected from potential cuts to funding to the Public Works Board, which is a state funding agency that typically supports infrastructure for basic services, so roadways, water, sewer, and we continue to monitor the situation because we anticipate less opportunities for grants to be received. I will say that, and then I will add that historically, at least in the last 5 or 6 years, we have received a lot of funding from federal and state agencies. And so while we think that the overall landscape is changing for receiving funding, I think City of Pasco has been very successful at receiving funding in the past. So this may be a time when we need to start considering different alternatives for mechanisms to fund our projects.
So I did have some, property-specific questions. Should I just get with Parks and Rec, or do you want them publicly aired? Okay. Several years ago, a Franklin County Commissioner told us that if the levee gets lowered and that drainage canal gets filled in, the property beyond, and we border that property, could be sold. And we didn't know if that meant we had an option to buy it, or if anybody could buy it between us and the river, which is a bad thing, or if it was going to stay city property.
I do not think that we are to that point of knowing what that determination looks like on how the reconveyance of the Columbia Shore is going to happen at this time. I think there's many options, but those we've not gotten to a point where we know what the clear outcome is going to be.
Yeah, and just as a property owner, I need to know as soon as possible because I need to get finances in place if I want to secure that. And I'd hate to find out, it's going on sale next week, and I'm not ready.
We do not believe that it is going to be in that short order, but also the fact that there's going to be a lot of public process before, so it should not be catching you by surprise.
Okay, and I also noticed, and this is my last question, I also noticed in the plan there was a proposed beach between like Road 60 and 64 on the river, and on Wade Island. Is that still in the works, or was that a dream?
I'd have to say I'm not familiar with that. That's not a current plan that I recognize, and I can confirm with. Brent, are you familiar with anything along those lines? Nothing that the city would have been planning for either of those, particularly the Wade Island, because that's definitely not within our control.
Yeah, I got that from the River Shore Linkage and Amenity Plan, City of Pasco, July 2012. If it went away, we're good with that. That's.
We'll have to look into it. It's quite an old plan, so
it might just be that the people here are not familiar with it. So we'll
Yeah.
check into that. And if you could leave your number or contact info, then we can get back to you on that directly.
And just so you know, the two concerns were environmental, that there's a lot of geese right there, a lot of habitat in itself. The island is off limits to people, and if they're going to put a beach on it, it seems counterproductive. And then there was a concern about where are people going to park and et cetera. But if that's unlikely, I'm good with that. Who wants it? Rebecca.
So is this an appropriate venue to ask about specific overlay programs or asphalt maintenance? Okay. So I was looking at the plan for overlay, and I don't know if you've driven down Road 28 to Lewis recently, but it is rough. I mean, there are holes in there and a lot of just broken concrete. And then as you're going down 28th and coming around to A Street down by the river, there is absolutely no striping, and there's also no lights. And that wouldn't be such a big deal, except that cars park on one side there in the middle of the night. I mean, when they come home from work. So especially in the winter months, it would really be helpful to have at least striping around the parking, because there's no sidewalks, there's no way to tell where the road is. I mean, it'd just be helpful to have striping there.
Appreciate that. Yeah, no, and we'd love to get your comments there and compile them as well, because yes, but we do have an annual pavement preservation program and consists of crack seal, chip seal, and overlays. So I believe the 28th that you mentioned is one of the top ones that's identified. And that is in our tip, and we have a general annual pavement preservation program. We had last year completed a pavement rating program that identified all the ratings in our streets. So we have a really good picture of what to, there's quite a few that have bad conditions too. So we will, that's part of their plan, and is prioritize and see what we can get within the budget and how many streets we can address. And as far as the striping, we will gladly address that. We usually springtime's a good time to get the restriping going. So feel free to add those locations and we'll take a look. Absolutely.
Okay. Could I just ask before I pass this on, what is your protocol for when you do stripe a road and when you don't?
It depends on, so there's, as far as paint markings that are used, there could be thermoplastic, which are longer term markings that will give you, maybe depending on the road, if it's a busy road with lots of trucks, but it's not going to last as long as other roads. But you can get a lot more years than if you use paint, which is when paint's used, sometimes you need to do it annually, but the paint is cheaper. So there's a little bit of, we mostly use thermoplastic, so it depends on that cycle when it's wearing out, and it depends on the traffic on that street, how fast it'll wear out. So streets like Road 68, Burden, they'll have a lot more traffic, so that could play into it. And also change in lanes will make it go faster. So there's a lot of variables, but we have a general, and then there's some one-offs that have something going on where there's a lot of construction activity or trucks using that temporarily that'll make it wear off faster, and our maintenance crews are
more specifically, I was wondering, like in residential areas, so like Road 32 has no striping whatsoever, no curbs, no gutters, no sidewalks. So there's a lot of truck traffic there that shouldn't be there. But anyway, I just was wondering, is it just like you have a snow plan for plowing? Is it residential streets you don't stripe? I don't want to put, hey, Road 32 needs striping if you don't do Road 32 because it's a residential neighborhood.
Generally, yeah, the residential areas, streets that generally don't get the striping, yes, because you have a lot of, it's just, unless it's a collector street, so sometimes you have neighborhood collectors where you identify it and turn lane, but yeah, generally it's just parking in residential streets and bicyclists, pedestrians on sidewalks, and you don't have the need for the identification. It's one lane each direction.
Okay. Well, I would like to say your new stuff all around Heritage Avenue and Ainsworth is beautiful. And the bridge.
Okay, I just moved out by Road 100. So is the water park, is that all funded? That's not part of this plan, or what's the status on that?
I believe, from the outset, we're different organizations, but we're happy to answer the question.
Oh, okay, that's not a City of Pasco project.
No, but we're really
Okay.
proud of that project as well,
Okay.
even though it's not ours. So I can definitely answer your question because.
make sure I understand which organization it is, too.
Our Pasco Public Facilities District is the organization that is building our aquatics facility. City of Pasco works really closely with the PPFD. I'm just gonna make that short, and they're building the aquatics facility in the Broadmoor area. And I believe it was last week where they poured cement on the foundation. They're scheduled to be open, hoping to be scheduled to be open by Memorial Day next year.
Great.
And we are, our Public Works team here is building the projects the road and the infrastructure that goes into that whole development.
Yeah, the new Sandifer extension there.
Yes.
So I had one more question. I went to a groundbreaking the Port of Kennewick had over at Vista Field, and they emphasized a lot through Benton County. They were able to receive rural development funds to help with the infrastructure there to facilitate their private development. And I just wondered if Franklin County had been generous with the City of Pasco that way.
Not yet, but we definitely work with Franklin County quite closely, and there have been projects in the past that we've utilized for some of our industrial reuse projects, so definitely benefited from their generosity. And we also have our Port of Pasco Economic Development Director in the audience. Sorry, Stephen, I'm calling you out. And Port also receives and has received funding from that pool of money. So they've not provided funding for that specific project, but both the city and the port has received funding for other projects from Franklin County.
Yeah, thank you.
I do want to acknowledge that we do have two of our council members at the audience, the one with the microphone right now, David Milne, and also Peter Harpster in the back there. So thank you for attending, and they definitely encourage us to have these outreach and ensure that we're talking with all of you to make sure they understand what it is that you would like to ensure that they are representing the residents of the city. So definitely appreciate their guidance and leadership.
Thank you, and I'm just here to listen and see what my community has to say. So, do you have any? Oh, I guess we don't have any, so I guess I'll turn it over to you.
We're all staff, we're sitting.
So from another perspective, I work with Basin Disposal, and we know that the legislature has changed zoning for housing, and it is causing us some concerns because the way the regulations are currently, it's possible to put one house behind another house, which means you can't get a garbage truck up there to give them curbside recycling. So just as you are developing these long-term plans, we would ask that you keep us in mind for if you put garbage cans on a busy arterial, we're going to be holding people up on garbage day. If you do those friendlier communities where it's really narrow streets, we're going to be holding traffic up on garbage day, which if everybody understands that, it's fine, but just keep us in mind, please.
Anyone else? And we do not have anybody online. We do have maps out there if you want to kind of take a look at it. I think transportation is always high interest to people. We love utilities here, but that's hard to see until the water stops running. But transportation is one. You're driving every day, and there's a lot that can be frustrating, but also you're our eyes because we can't be on every street at a specific time. So there's things that you see that we do not see. in a more real time. So if you want to go out there, kind of take a look at things, we can, and see if you have any perspective. Go ahead.
Well, I did see in the budget, the link that I got about the budget, it mentioned like maybe 30 or 40 or 50 acre plot of land to make a big city park.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if there was any, if you could flesh that out a little bit.
Again, capital improvement plan being a plan that we have identified the need, Pasco has identified the need that we do kind of have a park shortage, and as we continue to build out in that new Broadmoor area, we want to ensure that we have park space out there. So what we're currently budgeting funds so that if an available property would come up, that we'd be ready to proceed with that purchase. But as of now, we haven't found anything or set our sights on anything specific, but we are monitoring development and other land as it comes up.
We do have a park plan that we can send you a link to, and it does identify certain areas that are ideal for neighborhood parks and community parks. And I'll be honest, I started working at the city early 2017, and I remember talking about this really big park. And back then the land was so much cheaper, and I am kicking myself for us not having bought it. But now it is harder to find large pieces of land, and for a price that works for a municipality. So we're trying to also be creative about how do we provide similar experiences in a way that is economically feasible as well. So, and that's kind of where Jesse is great at imagining and dreaming. We are looking at things like linear park, where you're connecting parks with trails, things like that kind of expands the experience without having to buy something that is 40 acres and putting a trail around it. So those are the things that his team has been thinking about in ways that we can be economically prudent, but then also not shortchange the experience itself.
Thank you. That's nice, and I hope it's not just a big open space with a trail around it. I hope it's got stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a lot better at spending money than that.
Yeah.
Don't you worry.
Go ahead. Oh, okay. We're talking mostly about transportation today, but we do want to say that there are certain utilities. We provide water, sewer, irrigation for a portion of, so just because you get irrigation, it might not be from the city of Pasco, depending on where you're living. And we also do a pretty novel project, which is processed water reuse facility out by 395, where we take all of the processed water from a lot of 7 processors at this time, and we use it to, we reuse it, recycle, and then we irrigate farms. So we're doing a whole redo of that project, operational actually this year, where we're producing natural gas out of that, also using algae and all kinds of science that it sounds cool, but I don't understand. And essentially that is a way of encouraging other industries who have a lot of processed water but do not want to maybe deal with it, or is not economically beneficial for just one processor to have all of that infrastructure. So it's been a huge success. In fact, Rebecca Franczyk here, I believe you were around when that project first got started, and it was there for a couple of years, and then we got Reesers, and then we've got so many other processors who have come to that area. And so that's something that our team handles as well. But more on the day-to-day, we have water, sewer, irrigation, stormwater, and there are significant challenges to providing utilities. We are looking to update, basically replace our oldest water treatment plant, our Butterfield water treatment plant down here on A Street, and that's expected to cost 200 million plus. And so there are significant expenses that are coming up. And so for all of you to be kind of thinking about what the needs are of the community as we've used up a lot of that plant was built in 1927 or 37, okay, close enough. And so we're getting close to 100 years. And so we've used it up, and if you go in, it's kind of like a museum. The colors, the cabinets is of a certain time, and we're looking to replace that. But expenses are significant, but needed because it's water. We need water to live in this community. So that's something that I want to highlight because the economic impact is significant, but also something that we really need to be able to replace. And the other part is what is the cost of kicking the can down the road, because at a certain point, if you are pushing out, it becomes more and more expensive to then replace and fix the problem. And so we're looking into that and seeing what can the city and the utility afford, and what's the break even there where we say this break fix is good enough, and it's worth it, versus nope, even though the price tag is really high, we just need to do it. Yes.
I would just like to say I was watching the meeting last week when you were presenting why you have structured rate cases to do all of that, and I so appreciated your explanation to council that doing it from your gut is not defensible to me public, that you really do need to have numbers to back up why you're doing what you're doing and how you arrive at those costs. So thank you for that very detailed report, which I see is on your agenda tonight.
It's interesting. I always have a gut instinct, but then I have to have my math behind it.
And I, as a taxpayer, appreciate that you have that math for me to look at.
Yeah. Yes, Stephen.
Okay, so you talked about water. It's been a year or two since I paid attention on the sanitary sewer side. Have you completed the improvement? Any updates to the treatment facility?
Well, thank you for asking. We love talking about water and sewer. So the wastewater treatment plant has been upgraded. So there were two big phases of improvements. The first phase is complete. We're finishing some electrical work that got delayed due to delivery. So really it was operational minus those electrical components. Now those have arrived and they're being installed and programmed. And then the second phase is just about to being done. We expect that it will be completed by, I think, the fall of this year. So those two projects were very big projects. They were very complex. We did work in the water, building a new outfall, so that's the pipe that takes the treated water back into the river. So it's clean-ish water. It's clean water. It's water that meets the quality of the river after it's been treated, right? And there was work within the plant as well. So there were two very big phases. Each of those phases, the first one was about $27 million. The second one was in the order of 32, divided into two contracts, one for in-work water because of timelines with and specialty work, right, dealing with fish habitat and other things. And that second project is just about done. So now we will let the improvements run and we will evaluate how those are working. And there are some other planned improvements, which will be phases 3 and 4, but those will be fine-tuned with the information and the data that we collect as we are treating that wastewater and seeing how the first two sets of improvements have benefited our treatment. So overall, the intent is to double the capacity of that plant, and for the components that we have tackled, that is true. We still have some bottlenecks, but instead of being at 6 million gallons per day of treatment capacity, we are now at about between 9 and 10. So we have gained quite a bit of capacity. Thanks for asking. Okay, we can explain that.
Just take the first example.
Okay, so I'm going to start from the beginning. So if you want, we can pass these ones along. These are the Transportation Improvement Plan that was adopted by Council last year. And this is our starting point for TIP this year, right? So we had a plan that was approved last year. We look at this plan, identify what needs to be edited, what has changed, and so that this was our starting point this year. What you're seeing on one side of the printout, so the one that looks like this, that doesn't have like it's not like scale. You know, the one that is flat, the one that is really flat, doesn't have the scale, shows the total project cost. And that total project cost may actually be in a different window than the 6 years that the plan covers. Say a project started earlier than the first year on the plan, or ends later than the 6th year in the plan. So then when you turn around your sheet, like this, you will have kind of like this stair-looking setup of projects from closer to the year in which the plan begins to the further out in the future, to year 6. And these numbers, the total that you're seeing there, is the total cost within the 6-year period. And so that would explain the deltas, unless we have an error.
Yeah, I see you have to add the gray column to the
Yes.
6 years.
Yes, and so we like to have a full project cost so that it is clear to everybody looking at it that maybe the project is, say, a $20 million project, but really in the 6 years that you're looking at, you're only capturing a portion of it. And so then we can explain, why is it not scheduled sooner? Well, maybe there is no plan to receive that much funding in that period. Or there is a project that precedes it, and so we need to have that first project completed before this one can start. And so it's good to have a full dollar amount so that we understand what size and complexity the project will entail.
And the numbers are the same on both sides. That was my mistake.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
I didn't understand.
But sometimes it's not, so I'm glad that you brought it up. Especially when we have already spent dollars and that is outside the 6-year window. Okay, happy to answer any other questions, or if we want to move to the maps and point at things in the map. Sometimes it's okay. That's awesome. Let's do it. Let's point.
Welcome to the City of Pasco Council regular meeting of Monday, April 21st, 2025. Council thanks you for being a part of our city government. At the regular meeting, the city takes formal action on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business in the city. For those following along, agenda packets are available at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. For those present, agendas are available on the small brown table under the blue sign, or white sign with blue writing that says agendas on it. This meeting is being streamed live on PSC channel 191, PSC-TV channel 191 on Spectrum Cable in both Pasco and Richland, and it's streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and via Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meetings are available on the city's website. Lastly, the public does have the opportunity to make public comment here. So we'll ask that you put your name and your county of residence, but also you can submit comments via the Ask Pasco app, the city manager, or the city clerk. So with that, Ms. Clerk.
Thank you. Councilmember Barajas?
She is excused. I'll make a call out just in case she decided to attend us remotely.
No.
I do not hear, but like I said, she is excused.
Thank you. Councilmember Blaisdell?
Present.
Councilmember Grimm?
Here.
Councilmember Harpster?
Present.
Councilmember Perales?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne?
I am present.
And Mayor Serrano?
I am here.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, if you all please rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. That moves us on to item number 4, which is our consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by roll call vote as one single motion, as listed in your agenda. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by council members, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. So, but before I go through the several items, looks like there's 3 tonight. Do we have any requests from council to remove any of the 3 items? Hearing none, item A is approval of meeting minutes from April 7th, 12th, and 14th of 2025. Item B is bills and communications. Approving claims in the total amount of $4,244,212.84. And the final item, item C, is resolution number 4591, Second Amendment to RH2 Engineering, Inc. Professional Services Agreement for Northwest Irrigation System Upgrade. Do I have a motion for that, Mr. Milne?
Yes, Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Ms. Clerk?
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Blaisdell?
Yes.
Grimm?
Yes.
Harpster?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne?
Yes.
And Mayor Serrano?
Yes.
Thank you. It passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. With that moves us on to item 5, which is proclamations and acknowledgements. There are none for tonight. That moves us on to item 6. As mentioned, there's an opportunity for public comment. The public may address council on any item unless it relates to a public hearing that's scheduled on this agenda. This item is provided to allow opportunity to bring items to council's attention or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide for debate or the posing of a question with the expectation that you'll have an immediate answer, as some questions may require deliberative process by council, further information by staff, and information from from various sources. So with that, some questions are best directed to staff members. As mentioned, we have the Ask Pasco app, we have the city manager, the city clerk. Citizen items or citizen comments are limited to 3 items or 3 minutes. Geez, I'm tripping all over myself. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes as shown by the time right there. So when you come up for your comment, please state your name and your county of residence. With that, public comment is open. We got a handful of folks. We'll just move from the back left. If you can make sure that at the base of the mic should be a button that turns up. There you go. You're good.
Thanks. Wilson from Franklin County. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm I just realized that what I want to talk about is the Pasco municipal code that needs to be changed in regard to the 300 foot distance for the car wash. I saw it's a hearing item. Can I speak to that tonight, or do I need to wait?
Is there a public hearing? There is a public hearing on that. So let's hold that, Mr. Wilson, for that.
Okay.
If you have other comments, you're certainly welcome to share those.
Well, that was pretty much it. When is a good time for me to come and speak to that?
Let's see, where it's listed in the program is, which is it? It's 8A. There we go. 8A. So my guess is 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Oh, you mean? Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Tonight I will open for a public hearing for item 8A, which is that issue.
Okay.
I will call for public comment. At that point, you'll have the opportunity to express your opinion.
Perfect. Well, let me get out the way, and I'll just wait a little bit. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. I saw a couple other hands in movement. This gentleman in the blue blazer, I think you wanted to speak. I saw your hand up.
Looks like the mic is still on. Max Faulkner, Pasco, Franklin County. Full disclosure, I'm general manager of Atomic Gold in Richland, a business. And I come to talk about the Colville Tribe's proposal. The Colville Tribe already has 3 casinos, 2 off a reservation. Nobody else in the state has anything like that. I don't want to drag them through the mud, but they were one of the tribes that had illegal games, slot machines, for a long time, till they finally made a compact with the state. Meanwhile, the Yakimas have been good trust holders of their reservation, very good, responsible tribe. And Yakimas oppose the Colville Casino in Pasco. And also the Umatillas oppose the Colville Casino in Pasco. And they've both been very responsible tribes, and I think I'm fairly supportive of them. The tribal casinos, because they're on reservations, get a lot more games than the mini casinos or house bank card rooms. They get they get slot machines, mini baccarat, dice, craps, roulette. They get higher betting limits, and now they've got sports betting. And those are kind of besides them being sovereign nations, it's kind of because they, have reservation casinos. To take those benefits and move to the Tri-Cities to Pasco doesn't seem quite fair. They don't pay taxes. They don't pay the city gambling tax. Crazy Moose at one time paid around $1 million a year in gambling taxes, and that will go down if the casino comes in. Another thing you might not know, many casinos have a self-exclusion program put forth by the legislature. This is a book of people that have self-excluded themselves from gambling. The tribes are not bound to follow this. So you could have a niece or nephew that thought they have a problem and are self-excluded from the card rooms. They go right to the casino and play slots or anything. Also, I ChatGPT'd it, and the tribes in trust land in the Washington State don't pay property taxes either. If you're opposed to gambling, also their slot machines are found to be more addictive than cards because it's so fast. They just play. So thanks for this opportunity to speak to the city residents of Pasco to oppose this. May 3rd is the last date, and save some tax money. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any additional public comment?
Good evening. My name is Amber Wade, spelled W-A-I-D, and I live here in Pasco. For years, I have gone by Amber Carter, not to hide, but because I didn't want to ride on my father's coattails. My family is well regarded in multiple religious communities across the country and different faiths. I grew up going to church not only on Sundays but Saturdays too, reflecting on the wide variety of beliefs in our family. I've tried to give back to where I can. I've volunteered with local non-profit organizations and foster bottle-fed kittens since 2017. So believe me when I say that this is the last thing that I want to be doing. And there's no reason for me to lie. During the pandemic, the son and daughter-in-law of a former governor and current congressman, along with other family members, helped purchase my mobile home here in Pasco, sight unseen. A quick look at the assessor's records will verify this information, and I'm only saying that to show you that I have nothing to hide and nothing to gain from speaking about water pressure. It was the only thing we could find close to my 92-year-old father. Too much what has happened at Mill Pond Mobile Home Park is happening to us. You've likely read about it. The park in Ellensburg, where the residents filed complaints for years. Unexpected rent increases, surprise fees, language barriers, unsafe conditions, retaliation. Eventually, the Attorney General stepped in. The result, a $5.5 million settlement. But even after that, residents have stated that they're still afraid, still confused, and still waiting. The money didn't bring peace. It just confirmed something that had gone terribly wrong. And here in Pasco, we are living the same story. Our water pressure is dangerously low. Some days I can't even shower. We've had 2 park managers quit within the last year. And when I've tried to speak with one of them about a violation, she put her car in park and drove over my foot, and I landed in the ER. Since then, I received not 1, but 2 cease and desist letters. And when I reached out to both law firms, silence. But really, what would I gain from lying about water pressure? The story from Mill Pond is our story too. And yet here, no investigation, no oversight, no protection. My brother-in-law, who holds a PhD from Harvard, has stepped in to help. He's reviewed my leases, and still I'm struggling. So I'm asking you to help us figure out what's going on with the water pressure. Protect those of us who are speaking the truth, because if someone with this much support is struggling, what happens to the person who has no one, let alone doesn't speak the language? You can't help everyone, but you can help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any additional comments? Go ahead.
This on? Mary Mahoney, Pasco resident, to Pasco via RCW 42.56, provide the permit that allowed Pasco and Hayden Homes to kill our 8 floodplain American bald eagles and eaglets. Provide permit number 404 that allows Pasco to develop our floodplain, including the Riverview Sewer. Resolution 4582 and the Road 48 Central Pasco Community Park. Provide all past and present LID and ULID designs for my property, including those regarding harassment, retaliation, and more against me. Provide an LID and/or a ULID start date and cost for my property. Next, see Pasco City Council on 4/119 with City Attorney Lee Kerr authorizing no due process at animal control and more. Mr. Kerr's no due process results in lawless dog seizures. The dogs are killed and sent to WSU for research. See Animal Control Zeiler's quote, "The dogs euthanized at WSU were ones the shelter would have had to kill anyhow," end quote. TCAS is not a shelter. It's a WSU research holding facility. Dogs sent to WSU live in colonies for research, then they're killed. Their body parts are harvested and sent as far away as Japan. See WSU records for over 30 years with WSU animal bunchers Ben Zegan and Angela Zeiler, including Belle, Jack, kilophiles, and many more. Provide Ziegler-Zeiler's humane euthanasia certificates as required by the Animal Welfare Act. That is, prevent further botched euthanasias that animal control calls, quote, popcorning the dogs and cats, end quote, or also called a violent and painful way to die. Provide TCAS insurance and research provider permit and Pasco's cat bonds. Provide results of 48 counts of animal cruelty, theft of $375,000, and the missing rainy day fund. See Chambers, Howard, Hernandez, and Angela Zeiler. Contact the WSU president and Paul Allen's Dr. Guy Palmer for a list of animal bunchers and bogus animal rescues that sell dogs and cats to WSU for research. Call 509-335-4200, 432-3385. Next, Pasco's Aquatic Center, ex-Pasco Mayor Matt Watkins, provide a total for his monthly payments of $10,390 per month, plus travel costs, and a total for the Wow Factor wave machine costing anywhere from $22 million to $280 million. Yakima's Aquatic Center opens in June for a total cost of $10.8 million. With over $500 million for the Pasco CIP budget, nothing is going toward a homeless shelter for people, and nothing goes for a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for dogs and cats. For questions, call Lee Kerr, 509-735-1542. This is for the record and to put Pasco on notice.
Thank you. Do we have any additional public comments? Going once? Going twice? Third time? Seeing none, public comments now closed. That moves us on to item 7, which is reports from committees or officers. Do we have any such reports from our council members? Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Franklin County Emergency Management meeting that was on Thursday afternoon, and pretty much business as usual. They had some surplus items they wanted to sell. Some of the grants are going ahead. They're waiting on. Some are on pause just due to everything going on at the federal level. They were kind of thrilled that apparently some of the obligations enacted in 2022 in regards to like DEI and climate change and stuff that were pertinent in requesting those grants have now all been jettisoned, and so that's a kind of a clear hurdle for them. I also, with some others here, attended, including yourself, Mr. Mayor, the retirement ceremony for Sergeant Brad Gregory this past week, and then I also attended the Benton Franklin Council of Governments meeting on Friday, where we discussed, amongst other things, the call to action for the plans submitted by each jurisdiction as far as to move forward with funding, and that was about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Harpster.
Yeah, as Mr. Grimm mentioned, attended Sergeant Gregory's retirement ceremony last Wednesday, and then this evening attended the Capital and Transportation Improvements open house that was held here in council chambers, and we had probably over half a dozen community members, and was pleasantly surprised that most of them shared their thoughts and comments. So thanks to staff for hosting that and presenting. Thanks.
Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, along with Brad Gregory's retirement, I also attended on Thursday. They had a Japanese International Night at Chihuahua High, and it was really good. We got to do some art projects, and then they had a singing and dancing and karate exposition, and so it was good to get out there and see the different aspects of our community, and get again a good chance to interact with some of these exchange students and talk about how great Pasco is. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll just cap off with, on Saturday I had the opportunity to do the spring extravaganza with the city and God's New Generation Church. And it looks like we have a handful of folks, AA Plumbing, Renewal by Anderson, Clearwater Collision and Towing. Thanks to those folks, and I'm sure, I don't want to steal Mr. Rice's thunder, but I believe it was 65,000 eggs this year. It was impressive, probably doesn't, really cover it. Just watching those kids run up and down those softball fields. They had sectioned off for different ages. They had an ADA, I don't want to call it compliant because the baseball field's pretty level, but ADA accessible hunt, and it was just a great time to be there and, you know, share a quick moment of my faith and why my family and I celebrate Easter, and, you know, the opportunity to just enjoy the spring with my children was pretty awesome. So, you know, again, it was great for me to get out there and say a quick thank you to the city staff, to our partners, and again, share my thoughts on Resurrection Sunday. So I was really grateful to have that. So with that, moves us on to 7B, which is our general fund monthly report. Deputy City Manager Sigdell, it looks like that's you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Evening Council. This is the very first general fund monthly report for the year, and you might be thinking, why in April? We are trying to catch up, but there is usually a lag in the first 3 months for the finance department. Number one being that they spend a significant amount of time for the first 3 months of the year essentially closing the books for the prior year. There's also a requirement from Washington State that we have something called the 13th month. So we keep our books open for a month of January to record all of the transactions for the prior year. So there's a lot of activity that happens in the finance department, and as they are preparing that financial report, there's a lot of transactions that they record that makes the first couple of months of data not be quite complete. So we wait a little bit to get to you. Next month we're planning to be up to date and get you something as of April. Overall, it's the first of the month and first month of the year and the first month of the biennium. So looking at trend is we're not quite looking at what exactly the trend is going to be overall. From our estimation, we're going to be on track with budget, and we're looking at ensuring that we're monitoring our budget and our expenses, and ensuring that our expenses and revenues line up as they were recorded and authorized by council. One of the other things that we look at is revenues and whether they're coming in as we expected. And ensuring that if there's any variation that you'll be able to see in these reports. This current report attached does not include projections, but because it's the first month, we do not have quite the projection at this point. What the budget is what we're hoping to get. But as we move forward, especially after the first half of the year, then we'll start getting you projections from staff's perspective. So overall, things are looking to be on track. We're a little bit soft on permit activity, so we're going to be paying attention to that. It does make sense that we had some pretty big industrial projects going on last year. So when you're looking at prior year activity to current year, it looks like this year is a softer year. But there's also a lot of factors, national and local, on how many homes are being built and what are the businesses that are being built, and also in commercial and industrial realms. So we're going to keep an eye on that, and if there's anything significant to report that is going to impact our city and our finances, we'll be coming back to you on a report like this. We're also trying to reach out to larger audience, because government finance, as you have figured out by now, is incredibly difficult to decipher. So we're going to be working with and have been working with our communications team, who's really good at expressing information in a way that accountants might not always be. Our interim finance director, Griselda Garcia, is the one that presented this report mostly, and so she's going to be working with communications department to create documents like the budget at a glance and financial reports at a glance, so that it's easier to understand the information. So you'll see that attached to today's staff report as well. And with that, I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, thank you for that update on the presentation. I'm sure if we have more questions on where things are and whether or not the permitting you mentioned being a little soft, if it picks up, or other revenue streams, we'll certainly look forward to seeing that. So thank you for that presentation. With that, that moves us on to item 8, which is hearings and council action on ordinances and resolutions relating thereto. There is a single item. We've got the public hearing, which is a request for zoning code text amendment. Mr. Raymond's going to do this, but Mr. Wilson, this, after it being the gavel and open to public comment, that will be your opportunity to speak. So just listen for the gavel there, and we'll go from there. Mr. Raymond.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, and council members. Good evening, and bear with me this evening. My voice is still a little bit shaky, and may need to drink some water, so just bear with me a little bit. As you may recall, on March 17th, interim city manager Dave Zabel had a brief discussion regarding existing zoning code requirements that prohibited car washes in the C1 zoning district within 300 feet of residentially zoned district properties. This was in response to a proposal brought by P&W Developments LLC to construct a car wash and vehicle fueling station on property that is indeed zoned C1. Since the proposed car wash structures and equipment were within 300 feet, staff noted the issue to the proponents, which has led to the discussion about possible solutions, which we're here to talk about tonight. While CED staff is reluctant to recommend wholesale elimination of the standards without careful consideration of potential alternatives that will continue to provide some noise mitigations with the intent of maintaining compliance with the existing city noise ordinances. We do find that there are multiple options that the City Council could reasonably consider. Additionally, staff is recommending that the Council consider taking up a proposal that was initially discussed back in 2021 as a draft ordinance that not only dealt with the issue at hand regarding car washes, but also addressed other related issues, including drive-through development standards as a whole. While it is believed this proposed ordinance should be reevaluated for today's context, it does seem to be a good starting point that should be considered. Other options include a special use permit process, which provides for more flexibility than what we have today, but also requires more process and some expense in consultants and the hearing examiner process. The status quo is another option, meaning the council could elect to recognize the existing regulations as appropriate and keep it as it is. Also, there's an option for status quo with a twist. That is to relieve the 300-foot restriction, but only where a qualified acoustical consultant has evaluated the proposal and has recommended specific sound mitigation measures. Again, this provides more flexibility than we have today, but also comes with some additional work and cost in getting there. And maybe finally, the last option at this point is to simply remove the code provision that provides for the 300-foot restriction. Staff's primary concern is that no thought about or introduction of proper sound mitigation measures will leave a wide avenue for potential violations for the city's violations of the PMC 9.130, which is the city's noise ordinances, from one property to another primarily. Your Honor and council member, staff submits these options for you to consider this evening, along with any public testimony that you hear this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. Do we have any questions or comments from council before we open the public hearing? Mr. Harpster.
Just a quick one. When we discussed this several weeks ago, 2 or 3 of us mentioned a few different examples throughout the city where car washes currently exist within 300 feet of residential development. How did that happen? And I don't anticipate anybody, can speak specifically to it, but was it just something that fell through the cracks, or was this setback put in place after the fact? Do we know?
There's a number of things that could have happened. It could have been that those things were permitted prior to the code being enacted the way it is today. Also, it could be that those properties were not zoned C1 at the time, or they're not C1 currently. I don't know. It just depends on where it's at. So there's a number of reasons how that could have happened.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Harpster. Mr. Proth.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I have a few questions. Have we measured the distance from the potential new facility to the residential homes? at all?
We have not, staff has not evaluated the distance to the homes themselves, and the reason being is that the way the code reads is that the measurement is to be taken from the property line or the zoning, the residentially zoned property district itself to the building or the equipment.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, this is going through a process where they're trying to essentially thread this needle, and so we haven't really figured that out, perhaps. So are they not going to meet the 300-foot requirement currently? Is that really the crux of the issue? So it needs to be lowered? But we haven't measured it, though.
Based on the preliminary proposal that we've received to this point, they would not meet the 300 feet, and it's doubtful that it would be possible to do so with that particular piece of property.
Is it more like 200? We don't know. Is it like 100?
I wouldn't give you an exact number. I didn't quite analyze it in that much detail.
And in the staff report, you mentioned this previous code that was kind of workshopped and then it went dormant. Have you reviewed that code? Do you feel like that's a good code to work from going forward, or is it vague to the point where, you know, we'll have staff interpretation get in the way of getting a application complete?
I do believe it's a good place to start from. I do believe, like I mentioned earlier, we should reevaluate it to today's context. I think there's some things in there that could be looked at and amended that maybe don't quite fit in today's reality. But overall, I consider a very good starting point, and addresses multiple issues, not just specifically noise, but of course are very much related to what we're talking about this evening, and in fact does include specifics about car washes as well.
The way I read the code essentially is our code isn't mandating noise study.
No,
it's just recommended.
It's a potential recommendation that I've talked about this evening as an option, because sometimes we perceive things or we worry about how this might affect neighboring properties, but sometimes specific proposals, either whether it's the equipment being proposed or certain mitigations being proposed, or even unique circumstances surrounding the site or surrounding properties, that you might look at a thorough evaluation by somebody who's qualified to make those judgments, and perhaps you're making a decision based from a better standpoint.
Who on the city staff reviews that noise report? Do we have individuals here who review that and approve that report, like with the experience that they've had in their?
Well, we don't currently receive those sorts of reports currently, but certainly we would read the findings of the report that's provided to staff. We wouldn't prepare the report. We wouldn't make those judgments and calculations ourselves. Rather, we would simply receive the report and read it and consider its findings.
What is the area? I was looking at the decibel levels and stuff. What, I guess, says EDNA of receiving property, and then there's Class A, Class B, Class C. What exactly would that area that's receiving the noise be classified as?
Well, it's both Class A and Class B. I mean, I think, let me get to the code, because the receiving property is residential, but the emitting property is commercial. So forgive me just a quick second here. So yeah, again, residential zones are Class A. So, and in this particular case, now keep in mind this is a community-wide ordinance that would be effective anywhere surrounding C1 zone properties. But in this particular case, property to the east would be considered a Class A zone, and the emitter or the source of the noise, it would be a Class B, which is commercial.
Okay. So I guess I was looking at like mitigation measures. So, there's masonry walls, there's landscaping. I mean, is this code going to be able to make it work? Meaning with the mitigations, or what type of mitigations would the city be essentially mandating on behalf of the applicant, I guess.
Well, there seems to be a combination of different things promoted. Distance, the noise dissipates as you travel. Walls, landscaping, things of that nature. So, I mean, there's basically three different, measures being promoted as possibilities under that code.
I guess what I'm trying to get is I just want to make sure there's no ability for the city or the staff to, like the code, for it not to be so broad that staff interpretation gets in the way and just offers delays. Because, like you said, you guys aren't going to review the calculations. You're going to look at the findings. Noise studies aren't ever really given to the city, so no one here has any experience. So I just want to make sure that I don't want to see a code get made and then essentially we just have all these issues of it being a barrier to getting something actually done.
Yeah, that's a good comment and valid concerns. That's certainly why, because we don't have trained staff to write a report or make those judgments. I mean, we're merely interpreting the findings of the report that are typically given in layman's terms. And I think that gets us to where we need to be. Again, there's specifics in the code that talk about walls and landscaping and things, definitely prescriptive methods that could be followed. And that certainly cuts down the amount of time in comparison to, say, a hearing examiner process or going to the city council or something along those lines where you have to schedule for hearings well out in advance.
Okay. Okay, that's all my questions. I'll wait till the hearing's done.
Thank you. Mr. Grimm.
Thank you. Just one super quick comment. I look at that car wash on Court Street to the east of Road 40, and man, I know it's got houses right behind it, and I don't know if it's proper to do so, but sure would be interesting to listen to what those people have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. I'll offer some comments, and then I'll open the public hearing. I appreciate that staff has taken this single application and turned it into, let's look at what we were offering 4 years ago. I think this is a wise way to target some of these moving issues that are coming before us that maybe we don't often think about, but then it's the opportunity to really open the code in a whole. I mean, as we look at, in particular, that Broadmoor development, I mean, can't imagine it's going to be all car washes. So the fact that you talk about coffee shops and through this ordinance, drive-throughs, all these things that could be part of that future community. And if we can address them and standardize them, not to say they're not already, but standardize them to 2025, if you will. I appreciate that approach, and I guess my encouragement or my hope here is that as we have more of these kind of one-offers, let's do what we can to holistically approach code provisions. Obviously not the entirety of the code, but these provisions that give us a swath of issues that we might run into in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years as we build out kind of this whole brand new part of the city. So I just want to give you kudos and say thank you for taking that holistic approach. And I don't know if this is exactly where it's supposed to be with certain levels of setback. I think this is a good thing, and I think it's wise for us to open this up. And whether or not we adopt this one, I don't believe we're looking for action tonight to do so. But I would encourage, as we move forward to, again, dig into this provision of the code to answer the question. Then when the next thing comes, or when the next things we anticipate coming, maybe we do the same with another section of the code. So I appreciate that and just want to give you kudos for that and say thank you. With that, I am going to open the public hearing on this issue. The public hearing is now open. You're invited to up to 3 minutes of comment per individual. So Wilson, or Mr. Wilson, or Wilson, I'm not sure which it is. We'll go with you first.
So it's on already?
It is on. We left it on. Hot mic.
Okay, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. So when I noticed that they were going to address this issue, I thought, as was already mentioned, maybe we should talk to people who already have lived with this condition. I was thinking more along Fenway and Convention Avenue. You know, they've got the car wash and the drive-through as far as that goes. Maybe we could have people on the staff or so, I don't know how y'all do it, but, you know, put together that information, poll some people, say, look, now that you've been here 10 years or since you've lived here, has this been an inconvenience? One thing that we've talked a lot about, the noise, but also in the PMC, it does address traffic impact. It addresses pedestrian traffic impact. It can't interfere with or prohibit. So to me, I would also ask those folks around Fenway on Court Street that question as well, not just noise. And when we talk about noise, it's not just car wash, also vacuums. That comes into play as well. So I thought I would just see if that would ever, or if that was going to be addressed, and since it wasn't, I thought I'd put it out there for anyone else who's paying attention to the topic. As far as the solutions that were given, personally, I like the special use permit. Here's what I can tell you. When I did a little bit of looking into P and W, I know the two guys that run that. I'm not going to mention the name or anything, it's not appropriate, but I know who they are. Pasco, we missed a chance with Costco and some other stuff. Don't blow it. These guys are great guys. I'm telling you, green light everything they've got. Special use permit, put it in play. Let's get her done. Don't let, these guys are great guys. I don't know what else to say. But that's all I got.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any additional public comment on this issue? Yep. I'll ask that you turn the mic back on. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Shane O'Neill, Clover Planning, Pasco, Washington. I'm here to testify regarding the proposed code amendment. To clarify what I'm going to say, I prepared a letter. Would it help? It's very short. Can I present?
You can pass it to the clerk. You got 7 copies or 6?
No, I only brought 6, and I'm going to hold on.
Well, there are only 6 of us. You're in luck. So send it to the clerk, and she'll get it. Then I can give her back my copy. So go for it, Shane.
I hope Craig ends up with a copy too. I can email it later. So I served as a city planner for 7 years in Pasco, and then another 7 in the city of Richland. Just to qualify my testimony, I looked at the list of proposed code amendments, and I see an opportunity for another very succinct and surgical code amendment to PMC 2585-020-14, and that's the C1. That's the list of permitted uses in the C1 zone, 14 being car washes. It currently says car washes basically are permitted provided they are located more than 300 feet from a residential zone. I am suggesting that we change that language slightly to read car washes are permitted provided they are provided they are separated from residential districts by any public road right-of-way. Generally, your right-of-way widths are between 60 and 80 feet. In this instance, I think we're talking about an 80-footer as Road 90. And then we have the front yard area of a residential zone, which ranges between 15 to 20 feet, because if the side of the house faces this car wash, it could be as little as 15-foot setback. And then we have the 15-foot front setback for the C1 zone. So you're looking at a range of 90 feet minimum to about 110 feet physical separation minimum from car wash equipment to the exterior wall of the home. I provided planning staff with a little bit of research that indicates distance is a significant mitigator in sound. So sound deadens pretty quickly as we increase the distance. So I think that the impacts, the traffic, noise, the physical separation, and site specifically, we have an estate block wall along Road 90, which is required to remain pursuant to the plat, the residential plat. So we have that. And then commercial developments also require front yard landscaping, which can mitigate sound a little bit. So just requiring the separation between the residents and the car wash by way of a road should do the trick. I want to also say that it is a valid concern. You do not want what we have by Dairy Queen, where you have the rear yard of a home shared with a car wash. This is a bad situation. So even though, yeah, I'm here to kind of promote and facilitate this car wash, I don't recommend just stripping out the 300-foot rule and saying, yeah, they're permitted anywhere. So that's it, really. I think a road separation should do the trick pretty well.
Certainly appreciate you sharing your expertise with us, and we'll make sure that that the clerk.
Actually, before you do,
well, your 3 minutes is up, and typically we don't ask questions during hearings unless Mr. Ferguson is giving me a nod. Otherwise,
no, you can choose to do whatever you like. This is just an open record hearing, so if you have clarifying questions that you'd like to ask of the person making the testimony, you're certainly allowed to.
Go ahead, Mr. Prowse.
Have you looked into how much a noise study would be?
No, I haven't.
I was just kind of curious. I looked it up, but I didn't believe the number. It was like $1,000. I figured it'd have to be more than that.
Regarding the noise studies, I do worry that because staff wouldn't be qualified, that we'd end up in a situation like we're at with the energy codes, where then applicants are required to also pay for a third party to review the study that they have to pay for. Yeah, I like that you brought that up. It's not, the noise study is probably not a great way to go.
Well, I bring that up because, I mean, these projects are kind of shovel ready, right? You guys are just waiting for this text amendment, and then, they're putting in a dealership across from the way from this one. It's kind of not together, but they're two separate projects. And so that's why I brought that up, because of, I don't want to see this hold it up. And so, I guess we'll talk with staff. So you guys are, I see the wall. I brought up my computer, so I see the masonry wall. So on the other side of that, you guys are probably going to put some plants or something, right? Arborvitae or something as another mitigator, or you guys aren't looking to do that?
We can. A landscaping plan hasn't been developed.
Okay, because I was just looking at different ways that you guys could reduce the sounds, or an applicant could, and so whether
technically it's a front yard area.
Side, masonry wall, plants, and with that distance, I don't know what the decibel level would be, but it could go down to that class A, class B, where, whoever's receiving it. And so that's where I was coming from, just a little bit more prescriptive, but I guess we'll see what council has to say.
The landscaping code already requires trees every 30 feet along where that wall is now, so that should mitigate sound above the wall to some degree. The 300-foot rule was added after the car wash went in Dairy Queen, and only about 20 feet of this site remains as outside of the 300-foot buffer. So the westerly 20 feet is the only qualifying part where you could put the car wash. Okay. So most of the site falls within that 300-foot measurement.
Okay.
Certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Just real quick, just to remind everybody, because I know there's been a lot of talk about specific projects, but but what's before you right now is just a pure legislative amendment to your text of your code, and it's not related to any particular applicant, and so it's not related. It's not a typical quasi-judicial matter that an applicant would need to be considered. So just wanted to remind everybody, it's just a legislative act of text amendment to the code.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Ferguson. Ma'am.
Hi, staff, councilman, mayor, Katie Copeland, Pasco resident, live off Road 90, and realtor. It would behoove me not to mention that property values need to come into part of the study besides just traffic and noise. There's also no sidewalks on that road that's busy, where kids walk to school every day with no crosswalk, so you're going to add more traffic, no light. And that's what my thoughts on the issue is.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Do we have any additional public comment? Going once? Going twice? Third time? With that, our public hearing on the request for zoning code text amendment is now closed. With that, do we have any further discussion from council on the issue? I mean, I think staff's probably looking for some sort of direction. My preference would be if we're to continue forward looking at the code holistically, and coming back with some recommendations. I think really looking at what was done in 2021, my assumption is it's pretty current, but I don't know. I don't do this on a day-to-day basis, so I can't tell you whether it is or isn't. I think maybe comparing it to however you guys track codes would be wise, and then bringing it back either in this form or in a further marked up form. I think that's my preference. What are our thoughts here? Mr. Harpster.
So just to reiterate what you just said, have staff create a couple different amendments to the code for review, or
no?
Sorry.
Either bring this back as is, but at least look at it and compare it. You know, again, this was written sounds like 4+ years ago, maybe give or take. Just make sure that it's consistent with best practices of 2025. If it is, bring it back as is. If it's not, we see like the chart, for example, on pages 5 and 6. If those numbers or if mitigations technologically exist that didn't exist 4 years ago, add that in, that sort of thing. Otherwise, bring it back as a whole. Say we did our homework and this is pretty much 2021 standards or 2025.
Okay, I would be in agreement with that. And I did note while reading through the chapter 9 of the PMC regarding noise, there's lots of references to jukeboxes and cassette tapes. So I don't think we need to get that far into it at this point, but I would feel more comfortable, as you're saying, if staff did sort of a once through and compared now to then, and sort of gave us the green light. So
sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Hobson. Mr. Prowse.
Yeah, I was looking at the options. I think the most prudent one would be, obviously, I would like to see a comprehensive code review, but I think in the interest of just time, I think maintaining the status quo with the exception, which would allow for reduction of the 300-foot setback area and installation of some mitigation measures along with a recommended and qualified acoustical consultant. I think that would help out currently right now, but I think we should come back with a comprehensive review of some of that stuff and clean it up. So that would be my vote.
Okay. And just to make sure I understand, that would be retaining the current code with limited modifications as needed, not adopting or reviewing the proposed code, correct? Okay. So it sounds like we have two paths presented. We're going to need some further assistance from other council members. So just thoughts here. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with the mayor and Mr. Harpster on this. I mean, again, I'm just want to move forward, but yeah, not against the car wash. But on this particular issue, just make it more modern and, again, basically what you guys were talking about.
Thank you, Mr. Rimmer and Ms. Blaisdell. With
the panel, with everyone.
So Mr. Prowse has offered a slightly different approach. Yeah, his position will be don't touch what's marked up, accept the code as it's written today with some tweaks. Correct?
Yeah, and then if that didn't go, I'd be for the vote. I'm just thinking about the interest of time.
The time, right?
Yeah,
no, I
back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's already been. We can workshop it. It's already been done. So.
I guess that's the question for staff before we get too far into this. With the code already revised 4 years ago, give or take, this proposed code that was written in 21, what would our time frame be for you to kind of cross-check it against 2025 standards and bring it back, as opposed to amending a small portion of the whatever the old code is or existing code?
I think we would be prepared to make some recommendations at the next regular meeting.
Is that good for you, Mr. Perales? Or okay, would you then be in favor of taking that approach? Okay, so then it sounds like we have thoughts, no direction, but no vote here. That we would like to see staff review the marked up code, compare it to other current codes, make sure it's good, and then if there are other changes to be made, go ahead and offer those. If not, advise on why this code is 2025 appropriate.
Yep.
Sound good? All right. Thank you very much. I know that felt a little more brutal than it needed to be, but we got there. Let's see. With that, we're going to move on to number 9, ordinances and resolutions not relating to hearings. Got a handful of items here. Item A, resolution number 4592, quote rejection for City View Cemetery estate fence, and this is going to come from Director Rice.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I want to apologize. I wrote this council report last week thinking everybody understands all the projects I'm working on, and it was a little light with some of the details. So I updated it and we republished this afternoon to keep track of those details. So, but the resolution before you is regarding the construction of an estate fence out at City View Cemetery. This was a project that was approved by Council in 2023 due to both historical and ongoing issues related to the cemetery. Some of those which include, due to its location primarily, I should add that, but some of those include theft of both products or damages to vehicles those located at the city shop adjacent to there, outright trespass, damage to both headstones and urns, partying and drinking, I guess, as you'll say, as well as some overnight campers that we've had to ask to move on. So as part of trying to improve the situation out there and protect that area for what it is, we did budget about $350,000 in the general fund to build that fence. However, as time changes, there's an adjacent lot that had planned improvements and which might have changed the access to the cemetery that ultimately did not go through. So at the end of that potential project, we did move forward with creating a bid process to build that fence in late 2024. However, that project came back way over bid of what we had budgeted. So this evening we're here to ask you to reject that bid and give us direction on moving forward to go out to rebid that project again to hopefully complete it under the allocated funds. I hope that summarized everything you needed to know. If not, please let me answer any questions you may have.
Certainly. Thank you, Director Rice. Before I get to Mr. Harpster, I am going to put a slot on the never did I think I'd hear on council bingo of overnight camping in the cemetery. So thank you for fulfilling that 8-year wish. With that, Mr. Harpster.
I am the Director of Fund, so.
Yeah, and we could spend all night chirping back and forth on that, Mr. Harpster.
Just curious what the budgeted amount was.
It was 300. I believe it's 350,000, and it was budgeted out of the general fund.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, Mr. Milne, if I can get a motion.
No problem, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4592, rejecting all quotes for quote number 24-977 for City View Cemetery estate fence.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Now, Mr. Rice, if I understood, you required a second, not so much action, but direction from council, correct?
Yeah, in the council report, I noted that we were seeking approval of the resolution and direction for staff to go back out to receive bids for that project. And if we do so, we would bring those bids back for your approval for that project as well.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that seems reasonable to me. It's not like, in our inability to afford it negates the need for this. So I suspect, I guess, does anyone oppose that proposed path forward, which is staff going out for bids and then bringing those back? Okay.
All right, we'll be doing that shortly and bring that back when they're closed. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item B, which is resolution number 4593, Memorandum of Understanding for Tri-Cities Regional Public Facility District Administration. Ms. Pashon.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight the item before you is related to the Tri-City Regional Public Facilities District, or Regional PFD. It's a collaborative entity formed by the three cities to propose large-scale regional projects for voter approval. The district was created in 2010 to authorize taxing authority for such projects, but only when the express consent of voters across all three cities occurs. While the district itself does not have a dedicated funding stream, the cities share the operational costs necessary to keep the district compliant with state requirements and ready to support future project proposals. Since its inception, BFCOG has provided that administrative support to the district. To improve efficiency, the three cities and BFCOG have developed a new memorandum of understanding. Under this agreement, each city will contribute or continue supporting the district through equal cost sharing, capped at $6,000 annually, while BFCOG remains responsible for administrative tasks like financial reporting and internal controls, while streamlining the reimbursement process. Staff recommends the approval of the resolution authorizing the interim city manager to execute the MOU.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments of council? I'll just ask one. Do we anticipate any activity coming out of this district anytime soon?
We have three council members that were at their most recent meeting, so I don't know if they have anything that they would like to share.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I was elected the secretary of the board, and I don't know of anything that is coming. That's as we discussed in that prior meeting. It's one of the things that I need to dig in and find out more about. I mean, one of the things our assistant city manager said I really appreciate is just that we are a group working on behalf of all the municipalities of the area, and not only, it's not just us, it would take a majority of the voters was, to her point, just from there before we step forward. So yes, I would be in favor of this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I don't have any opposition to this. It's just, the one successful project that's come out of a PFD was sponsored by legislation of a no longer House member, Bill Jenkins, and a couple other folks who stuck the landing with the Pasco Public Facilities District, hence our water park. Again, I don't necessarily oppose the Tri-City Public Facilities District, and to your point, it's got some really critical Tri-Cities relevant issues. So I support it. I just was curious if there's something that I need to be aware of, and whether or not the city may get yoked into that at some point. Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, the only thing I just wanted to make sure that the council is aware of is that if you're ever bored and want to get to sleep real quick, if you take a look at RC 3557010, which is the PFD statute, it gives literally a word puzzle of different PFDs and the difference between the regional ones as well as the ones that are created by the cities. And it really goes through this analysis of showing that certain PFDs get certain rights based on the predecessor PFDs and if they're associated with a regional PFD. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that right now, while there is no particular advantage, necessarily an obvious advantage, very easily legislation could change, and being able to be a city PFD as well as be a member of a regional PFD could get you into a much different category of PFDs to the legislature. So, my wife says I don't throw out anything, and I would be so I realize that I'm the one that wouldn't want to get rid of anything, but this could really come back to benefit at some point, I think.
I appreciate that context because I think that is extremely helpful. And again, while it may be kind of on the warmer or in the cooler, wherever it is right now, that's extremely helpful to know that it may come back and benefit us. So I appreciate that. Mr. Prowse.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment. I don't I don't feel like there's really no use for us to be a part of this. If all three cities have to agree to get taxing authority to do some other project, nothing's happened for 15 plus years. They couldn't agree on anything before. None of the cities can. I know it's a small amount of money, but I don't see the benefit of it. We took legislation, did something here in the city of Pasco. I think that speaks volumes. I don't know why we're entering into another ILA, and it's just not gonna. An MOU, and I don't really feel too confident anything's going to pan out of this. A lot of these cities have voted down levies and bonds. I just don't see no benefit of us even being a part of this. I think we should just stick to what we already have in our area, which is the Pasco PFD. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prowse. Any further discussion on this item?
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Blaisdell.
The last project that we did do under this was the Three Rivers Convention Center, correct?
I believe so.
And there's nothing linking us to that any longer, correct?
No, that's a separate, there's a whole kind of a combination of, I'm sorry. No, so there's a whole kind of combination of the PFDs and which ones were related. That is, the Tri-Cities Convention Center is a regional center by definition in the PFD code, but it's not a Tri-Cities regional project under this PFD. They don't. This particular regional PFD does not have a specific project similar to our, as Mr. Prowse was just stating, for our PFD, we didn't for many years have a specific project that was related only to our particular PFD. So, but yeah, so there's a lot of nuances to it.
Anything else? With no further comment, I'll explain myself. I laugh because we had this PFD. It passed in Pasco, failed in Richland, failed in Kennewick, if I recall. Then we have the Convention Center PFD, and now we have the Pasco PFD. It's just funny that I laugh because it's kind of the sad tale of the Tri-Cities sometimes that we can't work together to advance our causes. That's why I laugh. So, that said, I do support this existing because if nothing else, it can benefit the city of Pasco. With no further discussion, unless we have any, Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4593, authorizing the interim city manager to sign the memorandum of understanding for Tri-Cities Regional Public Facilities District Administration.
Second.
I got a motion by Mr. Milne, and I'll give the second to Ms. Blaisdell. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nope.
It sounds like it passes 4-2 if I heard Milne and Perales dissenting, correct? Okay, I want to make sure I got that right. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item C, which is resolution number 4594. United States Bureau of Reclamation Municipal and Industrial, or M&I, Water Service Contract. That's going to come from Ms. Sarah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight we are presenting to you the M&I contract with USBR. This relates to leasing water from the Bureau of Reclamation to enlarge our source for our irrigation utility. So we've been talking about irrigation utility for several months now, and I have mentioned, kind of preempted this agreement coming in front of you. We were ready to bring it last week, and we had a call from USBR asking us to wait until the revised version was coming to us. There were some changes in staffing in USBR, so we decided that it was advantageous to continue moving forward, and that's why we have the agreement in front of you today. We anticipate potential changes in the future, in which case we would bring this item back to you for approval. So what does this agreement do? This agreement allows us to lease 1,000 acre-feet of water from the USBR system of canals, and this water would be delivered to us, City of Pasco, at our northwest corner of the city through a pump station the city will build next to an existing canal, and the delivery itself will be done through the South Columbia Irrigation District. So we have been working with the district as well as USBR to ensure that we understand the full picture of what does this coordination will look like. So we have that. We have rates for both the leasing of the water and the delivery of the water. And this type of water being leased really relieves some of the pressure on water right purchases needed for the utility. Since we don't need to hold the water rights for this water, USBR holds the water rights instead. So the agreement is a standard M&I agreement. There's lots of, there's some subdivisions and lots of industrial or farmland that uses this agreement. So it's very similar, and it includes all the conditions for both the person receiving that, in this case would be City of Pasco, and USBR's responsibilities associated with the water. So at this time, we recommend action approving this agreement, and we would continue to coordinate both with USBR and the South Columbia Irrigation District to solidify the agreement on how the delivery will occur, coordinate on our final design, which we discussed last week, for that facility to receive the water. Now, I mentioned this is 1,000 acre feet. That is what the agreement includes. There are also plans and discussion on taking over some existing M&I contracts that are individual smaller M&I contracts within City of Pasco jurisdiction, and that would alleviate some of the work for both the district, and also will allow the city to have continuity in its mains so that we can really distribute that water and have more ratepayers supporting that system. So the approximate number of acre feet is 1,600 should we were to both sign this agreement and then transfer over M&I contracts that are existing for some subdivisions. So today's action is only for the agreement with USBR for the 1,000 acre feet, but I figured I would provide a full picture for you. And with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Mr. Officer.
No questions. Just wanted to express my appreciation to staff for doing this and coordinating with the Bureau. I know from personal experience, it typically takes a very long time and is not always a fun process. So one of the sentences that stuck out at me from the staff report was to provide for the planned expansion and reliability of the irrigation system over the next several years. And so just to bring that to the public's attention, that staff's doing a good job of looking ahead and taking care of things now so that other things don't become an issue in the future. So appreciate the work on this. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Officer. Seeing no further comments, Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4594, authorizing the interim city manager to execute a municipal industrial water supply contract with the United States Bureau of Reclamation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Milne, second by Ms. Blaisdell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, passes unanimously. With that, that moves us on to item number 10. It's going to be a single item, 2026 to 2031 Transportation Improvement Program. Miss Sarah, back to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. So this presentation follows from a presentation in March when we did an introduction to the Transportation Improvement Program. As you remember, next slide please, thank you. As you remember, this is a statutory requirement to have a plan adopted by July 1st of each year, in which we identified, so each jurisdiction, so the City of Pasco, identifies a plan for transportation improvements, inclusive of vehicular traffic improvements as well as pedestrian and bicyclist facilities. And once this document is adopted, it must be filed with the Secretary of Transportation. Next slide, please. So we have talked about this before, and we had discussed that the TIP, so Transportation Improvement Program, identifies a list of projects. Those projects are identified by name with a brief scope, as well as a proposed schedule. It identifies each phase of the project, being design, right away, on construction, and then of course it also identifies the funding sources. Some of those are secured, others are planned. Next slide, please. Sorry. So, what have we done since we last talked about this? So, we have identified 41 projects in the new draft list. There are 3 programs and 5 studies. The work performed was identifying the completed projects and removing them. Also, updating projects that have had a change in funding, cost, or schedule. So that applies to projects that maybe we apply for funding and receive funding, so now we can show it as secured. And we have solidified a schedule for those. Or projects that we apply for funding and have not received the funding. Therefore, we have either find different funding to support them or move them in the schedule to allow for a new call to be available to us and fund the project. We have also incorporated new projects that have been identified through either plans, projects that were in the 6th year, which was not part of the previous plan, or needs that have been identified, such as pavement preservations in specific locations. We also are consistent in this list with any grant application we submit. So if we're submitting a grant application for specifically for pavement preservation, we want to identify that project independently from the program that is typically identified in our plan. And then finally, what is left to be done? Well, it is still to be done. The complete our outreach. Outreach began today. We had an open house, and there is another open house planned for May 7th during lunchtime. So that is 11:30 to 1:30 at Giza Stadium. And we also have opportunities for public comment as part of our outreach in a public hearing that will occur at here at the City Council. And of course, with all the feedback and with this draft list and potential edits that you may suggest or may come from the feedback collected, we would confirm the prioritization of the project. So we're going to be looking at this list and confirm that we are on the right path, that this plan is the plan that reflects your interests, needs, and the needs of our community. Next slide, please. Okay. Very small, the packet included this list, but what you're seeing here as a general idea is items in blue are projects. Items in green are, let me see, they're programs. And then items in yellow are studies. And so it's important to identify the different type of activity because it also explains how the expenditures are occurring. And so in this very small slide, you are seeing the cost for each project, what is the status of the funding, what is the type of funding that we're identifying for each project, and then what each phase of the project will cost: design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. Next slide, please. And in this new slide, what you're seeing is the same list of projects, but now identifying the schedule of expenditures, including a prior year, so any expenditure prior to the 6-year window we're looking at, and then any remaining cost for the project that doesn't fit within those 6 years. These projects are organized based on their schedule. And so that allows to see that the top projects in the list are those that are closer to us. The vast majority of those are secured funding, and most of those actually include external funding at this time. And then, of course, programs are recurring year after year, and studies are only a planning document, right? So they don't include right-of-way or construction funds. Next slide, please. Okay, so next steps. We're doing a presentation with a draft list to you today. We have planned outreach. We just talked about the outreach coming, and we have the brochure there available to us. Those that cannot participate in outreach events are welcome to send comments through the city website. And then we plan a new update to council later in May so that we can share with you feedback and potential edits suggested to the list. Later there will be a public hearing, and I have to clarify, I have the wrong date in this slide. So the public hearing will be on May 19th. I apologize for that oversight. Potential new edits after the public hearing. So we're giving ourselves several weeks to work through this list and identify whether changes are requested by council or the public, and then discuss those with you. And finally, adoption that must occur by July of 2025 is scheduled tentatively for June 16. If we were not ready by then and there were further edits needed, we still have 2 weeks to accomplish that. So we have built some contingency in our overall schedule. Next slide, please. Oh, this is it. So I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to talk about what projects were included or eliminated, but in an interest of time, I'm ending this presentation briefly.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. I'll start with Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Sarah, for your presentation. Along Councilmember Harpster's comments on the last item. I just also wanted to say thank you for bringing this to us early. I think there was, a little frustration last year, not directly at you, but just in trying to put some things together at the last minute. And even just looking at the CIP number 11, the new business that you're going to get to next. I mean, you have given us ample time all the way till November to start to wrap our mind around this and think about it. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. Appreciate your work on this.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Harpster.
Yeah, Rich, sir, is there a way where you could identify on this preliminary list which projects are new to the list and recent to us, or did you and I missed it?
Yes, absolutely. So actually, new projects, and we can go back if you want. So new projects are bolded.
Okay, that's what I wondered.
Yes, I know it's really hard to see in the overall slide, but in the attachments to the packet, they're easier to see. So new projects are bolded, and I appreciate your question on it. So there's a series of projects that are shown as new. We are planning to bring an amendment to the current TIP before the end of May, which will make some of those new projects that are shown in this slide as new become not new in the 2026 to 2031. But for clarity in this presentation, we're showing anything new is bolded, and those projects include Harris realignment to eliminate that current layout of the left turns on Harris and Broadmoor. We also have two pavement preservation projects, one north of the freeway on 4th Avenue, turning into Glade all the way to the north limit of the city, as well as some pavement preservation plan for Road 68 between the Court Street and I-182. Those two pavement preservation projects, we have applied for funding, and it is a requisite to have them in your TIP and then become the state transportation improvement plan at the time you receive funds to be able to contract those funds. So we wanted to make sure that we were in the best position possible to quickly begin design if those projects were awarded. I believe I'm missing one new project, so I'm going to check through my list here. Oh, yes, we have a new study. So there is a study on the intersection of Road 68 and Clark Street. That is a 5-leg intersection near Douglas Road, just for location, just generally speaking. That didn't used to be a city intersection, but now it's a partially city intersection. So we had some comments and attempts to coordinate with Franklin County staff, and so I think it's a good idea to at least consider it as a location to identify as new development is occurring in that area and potentially needing some revisions to increase safety.
Curious on that specific intersection, how coordination with the county went, or those conversations at least. In a commissioners meeting probably a month ago, all three were in favor of trying to coordinate with the city and studying the intersection, because there's a portion that is not within the UGA, as I'm sure you're aware. So is that the plan moving forward, that the county and city will be working together on that?
We would like to work together, yes, and there was an attempt to coordinate for a grant application. It was a little bit late in the process, and we didn't have all the data that was necessary. Neither agency had all the data necessary to support a successful grant application. So the attempt to have a study first would better position us for a successful funding of that project, specifically looking at safety.
Okay. And then my last comment, I still think that the James Street project, number 37, is unnecessary. I think we discussed it last year early on. So maybe I'll shoot you an email for the reasoning behind that one. So if I remember right, it was off of Oregon Avenue in a industrial area, and the plan for that one was sidewalks through that kind of U-shaped street. Is that correct?
Yes, it was a combination of realigning the road to be within centered in the right of way, and it included a full reconstruction of the road, which is in not as good shape as one would want, and curb gutter and sidewalks, just consistent with our standards. But absolutely, we can revisit the scoping for it.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Harpster. Mr. Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I have one suggestion for this plan. It would be over on Road 44. I talked about it the last time we talked about this, and it's in regards to that canal crossing right there, creating some type of bridge. It's really unsafe, and now with that gas station that opened up about a year ago now, people are just playing Frogger, trying to get around, and it's really unsafe. And on both sides, there's no sidewalk. So a lot of people use the trail. I really feel like there needs to be sidewalks on both sides, all the way up to First Place, the roundabout right there. It would be more safe. I mean, there's little kids walking over there after school, getting their candy and soda, and they're looking around that canal bridge right there. And I think something that needs to be looked at, something they need to put together for us to perhaps fund. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Prowse. Seeing no further lights, I think we can move on to item number 11. My understanding is no particular action item needed, just awareness and continuing with the schedule. So with that moves us to item number 11, new business, capital improvement plan update. I'm going to stick with you, Ms. Sarah.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council members. So this item as well follows from a prior conversation or presentation in March, and this is about the capital improvement plan. So as we have already discussed, the capital improvement plan is a strategic plan that allows us to prioritize projects related to infrastructure, and that includes, and I have a list there, all utilities, transportation, and also parks and facilities. So while this capital improvement plan incorporates the transportation improvements, we are excluding those from this presentation today because we just had an item that was specific to transportation. Next slide, please. So how are CIP projects identified? Well, we look at community input, we look at master plans, comprehensive plans, facility plans, any long-range planning document that has already been developed and has identified needs and projects associated on how to address those needs. We also rely on external partnerships to identify opportunities to maybe accomplish more by working together, and that is through a school district, for example. We typically work with them on Safe Routes to School, and there's other community partners on providing other services where we can partner and then have a better facility when we work together. Talked about building and facilities needs. We discussed the same thing for transportation. So we identified needs from our operations team, from just the general maintenance of our facilities, and then needs that come from new services that we may be offering at those facilities, or we may be in need just based on community input. And then finally, very important, funding availability. This plan is not fiscally constrained. It goes beyond a budget cycle, but we make sure to be reasonable on the expectations that we set. And we typically look at what is the history in receiving grants or loans to accomplish something, and then what is reasonable to be expectable in the future. Currently, the landscape for funding is a little bit more complex than it used to be, and maybe harder to forecast. But again, we ensure that our plans make sense. And when we're looking at funding, we're also looking at our ability to deliver. It's not just funding, it's resources overall, making sure that our plan is attainable. Next slide, please. So this schedule for the capital improvement plan includes both the capital improvement plan, and it ties to some other activities that are occurring that have an impact on capital improvement plan. So as we just discussed, right now we're presenting an overall draft of the CIP for 2026 to 2031. Outreach events are underway, and we are doing joint outreach events with TIP and CIP to hopefully boost participation. And so, like I said in the prior item, first outreach event was today. Next outreach event is May 7th at Giza Stadium at 11:30 to 1:30. And if you're unable to attend in person, please send us a comment through the city website. We are happy to receive those and compile that feedback. We will be coming back to council to present some of the information that we received through the feedback that we have gathered. And then in May, we're going to focus on TIP. So in May, we'll be working on TIP. We'll have the public hearing. We will finish the TIP hopefully by the end of June and have it adopted. And then after TIP, so the transportation component is done, we can then refocus on CIP. And at that point, we will be working between June and August on looking at strategies for funding our utilities. So that is water and sewer funding will be looked at as a cost of service, including both rates and connection fees. And then in September, with that being fully addressed and understanding what can be built with what we can afford, we will continue bringing back a full CIP presentation to you as a proposal, giving us time for edits and revisions during the month of October, and targeting a November CIP adoption. So there's lots of months with some gaps in there to work on transportation and also funding strategies. Next slide, please. Okay, and again, these slides are very small, but in this first slide, we're looking at water and sewer, actually sewer first in green and then water in blue. While we won't be going in detail into each of the projects that are listed here, we have been very conservative with the addition of projects. Both sewer and water have a lot of big capital needs. Sewer has actually already accomplished some of those needs, and we're now in the repayment period of those investments. And water has a lot of work coming, especially associated with West Pasco being expanded to have reliability, and then Butterfield water treatment plant having to be fully replaced in a phased approach. And we have talked before about big investment dollars there. This plan shows the work in Butterfield water treatment plant as in a series of projects, and I believe those are stretched out to 10 years, so they're not all shown in this spreadsheet. So this is not final cost for all the work at Butterfield, but we're looking at more than $250 million in investment in Butterfield. So conscientious of that, we have limited ourselves in incorporating new projects, even though new projects have been suggested for water and sewer. Next slide, please. And similarly, you're seeing now in purple irrigation, in red and orange PWRF, and then storm in green. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Both irrigation and PWRF have recently had cost of service analysis performed and new rates adopted. So this two list of projects pretty much tie to that rate study analysis, and we have not added new projects. And then for stormwater is in need of a new cost of service analysis, and that is planned for next year. So again, we have been pretty conservative in how we approach this year's CIP. Besides that, some of the thought processes, this year's CIP is not really informing a new biennial budget, unlike last year when we had a biennial budget that needed to be defined. So this year CIP is being looked at as what can be afforded with what we know today. And likely next year will be a stronger year for edits once we have done more analysis and have new funding strategies in place. And now, this slide is about parks and recreation projects.
And for parks and recreation as well, as Director Sarah was talking about, there are a few additional requests or projects that were added for the 2026 through 2031. And those include a nature trail linear park, Pasco Marina Dock C. The current dock is unusable, so want to make sure that that is included as a project for potential funding in the future. Pasco Sporting Complex soccer facility fence, and then one that didn't make the new but is officially on this project list is the downtown lighting program.
Okay, and with that, we are happy to answer questions about this item. Thank you.
Thank you for the comprehensive presentation. Do we have any questions or comments from council? I am seeing no lights, so you're off the hook. We'll just continue watching these presentations and, receive the public input and go to wherever we need to go from there. So with that, that moves us along to item number 12, which is miscellaneous discussion. Mr. City Manager, or interim, or whatever. Mr.
No
Zabel,
items.
do you have anything for us?
No items tonight.
All right. Anything from council? I know I have one item. Yeah. Okay. Just one thing, Mr. Ferguson, are we going to need an official vote on this one? Yeah.
Yes, so just taking a peek at the letter, it sounds like that's what would be required because it does appear to come from the city.
Okay. Late last week, I received an email from the Benton County Administrator. Benton County, I believe Franklin County, let me just make sure, I don't want to speak for them. Yeah, Franklin County, and all of the 4 Tri-Cities, I know that doesn't make sense, but Kennewick, Pasco, Richland, and West Richland are looking to sign on to a letter seeking to protect female sports. I know this is typically not in the purview of the city, but obviously something that with statements from our federal administration, from our state administration, from the Office of State OSPI, Office of Superintendent for Public Instruction, there are some competing theories and competing interests in the world of female sports, specifically in the high school and lower levels, and the protection of Title IX. With that, I was asked whether or not the city of Pasco, or if I myself would sign on to this. I certainly have my personal opinions, and I support this letter seeking to protect these female participants in athletics. So with that, I want to raise that, and certainly if we have discussion, certainly if there's opposition, please let me know now. But yeah, that's open for discussion. Mr. Harpster.
I would be in full support of that. Thanks.
Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also be in full support. We've seen enough scholarships and safety robbed from these young ladies that I would love to join my alma mater, Tumwater, in going forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoops. Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Milne.
I'm in support of this as well, and willing to do a motion if needed to have a vote on this.
Thank you. Mr. Prowse.
Just want to say I support it, and I would be willing to put my Herbie Hancock on that.
Sounds good.
I support it as well.
Thank you, Ms. Blaisdell. With that, I mean, even though we've voiced our support, I think it's best that we have a formal motion. We'll do it by voice vote, and we shouldn't need roll call on that one. So I don't know, whoever wants to make a motion can do that.
Well, I can make a motion. I move that we support our mayor, City of Pasco, for the protection and preservation of girls' sports. Is that good enough?
Second.
We had a tie there. I think last one I gave to Ms. Blaisdell. I'll give this one to Mr. Grimm. So all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Hearing none, that passed unanimously. Do we have any other miscellaneous discussion, council? Seeing none, that moves us to item 13. We do have need for an executive session. First, do we want a quick 5-minute break or so before? I see some head nods from staff. So, and then my second question is, I don't see a time listed. How long are we allocating for this?
2
So 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay. So For the executive session, we have discussion with legal counsel about current or potential litigation under the revised Code of Washington, Section 42.30.110, subsection 1, Roman numeral 1 or I. We're going to take a 4.5-minute break, which pulls us to 8:45, and a 15-minute with the interim city manager, deputy city manager, and city attorney. Is that it? All right. And the public works director. And with that, we should be back at 9 o'clock. So we'll be back soon. Thank you. It is 9 o'clock. We're going to extend executive session for 5 minutes. So hopefully I'll be back with everyone in 5 minutes. Thank you. Good evening. It is 9:05 p.m. We have finished our executive session. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us.
So, this is a very busy slide, but what we've attempted to do here is explain how impact fees can bring consistency and order to the development process. So in talking with your city staff,